Hey guys, welcome to the Huddle. It has been a tough 12 to 15 hours for the Trump administration. A number of defeats and potentially a tough day coming today. First, a grand jury refused yesterday to indict those 6 Democratic lawmakers who made that video telling military members not to follow illegal orders. That was a setback we're going to be talking about here in the show. But then the White House and the Speaker lost control of the House floor last night when 3 Republicans sided with Democrats in basically green lighting these future votes that are going to rebuke the president's tariff policies. This is going to be a huge issue in the midterms. It's going to come up again and again because Democrats are going to force it to come up again and again. And then on top of that, we're expecting any moment to get jobs numbers. And ahead of that, Peter Navarro was on television yesterday and gave this sort of cryptic warning about what we might see. Let's play that.
One thing I want to note, the jobs report's going to come out tomorrow.
Yeah.
We have to revise our expectations down significantly for what a monthly job number should look like. When we were letting in 2 million illegal aliens, they're coming in. We had to produce 200,000 jobs a month for steady state. And by the way, all of the jobs that we were creating in Biden years were going to illegals. Americans were going to the unemployment lines. That's totally reversed. And now 50,000 a month is going to be more like what we need. So Wall Street, when this stuff comes out, they can't rain on that parade. They have to adjust for the fact that we're deporting millions of illegals.
Let's come out of that.
Well, so perhaps a head fake. So the jobs report just came out. 130,000 jobs were added.
Wow.
That is way above estimates, which was going to be 55,000. And hourly earnings was up 0.4. People thought it would be up 0.3. So that is a good sign. So a pretty good jobs report. They did revise the previous month down 17,000. So, that is not
That's huge. What was the Peter Navarro head fake about that?
Well, he wasn't the only one. There were other administration officials warning about this. I don't know. It is really bizarre that they were all out there kind of warning about a bad number, but turned out.
Well, just to be clear, I with all due respect, I don't think they were warning about a bad number. I think the president actually has been talking about this himself. He brought it up. I am trying to think of the NBC interview or the last couple, but he keeps noting that jobs numbers have always included government jobs. And if you're in the process of cutting government jobs, then your jobs report is going to look skewed because it's just private sector, not government jobs. And his point has been, I could change that. If I really just wanted to create jobs, I could hire, a ton of government workers. So I think part of what Navarro was doing is making sure that people understood. I would argue that number is even better because of the description that Peter gave.
Well, I mean, look, the idea that jobs under Biden went to illegal that they all went to illegal immigrants is the dumbest
government
thing I've ever heard. It is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Wait,
but that doesn't stop anybody from repeating it.
Wait, no one said illegal. You said government.
No,
he said Navarro.
What Navarro said is the last couple of years, jobs all went to illegal immigrants. I mean, that is just absolutely factually not true.
It was, but non-foreign. There is a job statistic about.
I mean, that's just nonsense, but that's okay.
Look, not actually. It's a statistic that
it's not. There is no statistic.
Okay,
that's just not true.
Let's agree that maybe Navarro won the day by totally deflating expectations.
There you go.
And then everybody on the right is super happy. Look, a good.
I mean, look, 130,000 is not 500,000, but it is better than estimates.
100%. Okay, so put a pen in this because we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the state of the economy. We're going to talk about the president saying that they're done with reconciliation. We're not going to see another big partisan bill go through Congress this year in the midterms. We'll talk about the quote seditious 6, maybe not being seditious after all. We'll talk about Save America coming up in the House for a vote and the pressure on the Senate on the filibuster. And we'll discuss, the base of the Democratic Party when it comes to the DHS funding debate. Can the party tell the base no and that it's time to get in line with a deal?
By the way, I'm just a quick search shows that previously job numbers have differentiated between American-born workers and foreign-born workers when describing job numbers. So that goes back years. That is not a Trump thing. I'm looking at so.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't answer what Navarro said. But
I know he may have
get
said
what
the
you're
word.
saying.
I didn't listen to him intently, but I don't know. There is a differentiation.
Sure.
Trump is
And
making.
I assume we always look at the American jobs specifically when we're talking about job numbers, or does
No.
it?
There, when you look at the number
Dan's like, let's
created,
move on.
so let's.
I mean,
take
I'm
the
just
130.
laughing because it's an attempt to redefine jobs number to fit a narrative. The jobs numbers have always been the jobs numbers, but like with everything with Trump, we have to redefine it to have victory, right? Everything has to be redefined.
I'm happy with 130.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
But I'm just. I think it's worth noting how it's been skewed in the past.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's just a quick housekeeping note, guys. You will notice I'm not in my typical office, and I'm gonna actually be off the show tomorrow. Just a personal note, the Bades lost a very dear family member on Monday very suddenly. My cousin, 30 years old, 2-year-old child, just very unexpectedly died. So I am going to be traveling and spending some time with my family to celebrate his life and honor his memory. And tomorrow you will be in the trusted hands of Dan and Sean. So thank you guys for taking the lead on that tomorrow. Okay, let's talk about the day book. We should go to the day book first. A lot happening today. So jobs report, obviously have that. Today in town, this morning, Haley Stevens from Michigan, Mallory McMorrow, and Abdul El Sayed. Am I saying his name right? El Sayed? El Sayed.
I think so. Yep.
All obviously
Not
Senate
really sure. I'm going to add that to the
candidates.
list of things that I'm probably economic advice, medical advice, saying foreign-born names is probably not in my.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask.
Well, he's
you.
not
Okay.
foreign born, but it's yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
He's an American.
Okay, so they'll gather at the Washington Hilton today for the United Auto Workers Michigan U.S. Senate Candidate Forum. Obviously, that's a huge constituency for them in Michigan, and this is a primary we are all watching very closely. At 9:45, the new Democratic Coalition chair and vice chair are going to hold a press conference on affordability issues. Obviously, we haven't actually talked a lot about affordability issues because everything's been centered on ICE. So Democrats trying to pivot the attention on affordability issues that they believe will benefit them.
I mean, this is just to stop there for a second.
Sure.
The New Dems are putting out like a platform to basically run on. So I mean, this is just like the Republican Study Committee put out something on a reconciliation bill, a month or so ago. This is not insignificant that the New Dems are doing this and putting something positive out there for people to champion.
Okay, well, we'll be following that. And right after that, 10 o'clock, Attorney General Pam Bondi is going to be in front of House Judiciary Committee. This is going to be lit, as the kids say. Just a reminder that Epstein Bulldog Tom Massey is on this panel, and just the dynamic between the two of them is going to be interesting enough to follow. But then you're also going to have a bunch of Democrats grilling her about the administration trying to indict these 6 Democratic members of Congress. So that's going to be interesting. And then, of course, we have in the background the whole thing with Tulsi Gabbard in Georgia and the president saying that Tulsi went down to Georgia because of Pam Bondi's direction. It's going to be an interesting hearing. Any predictions on that one?
Look, if you look at the first, the sequel, so look at the first movie. Pam, when she testified in front of Congress, was on fire. It was definitely she took no prisoners, and I will just say that I will be interested to see on both sides, as we saw yesterday with Todd Lyons, which was an absolute disgrace, what they said and did to him. I have a feeling today that was the warm up act for this.
Interesting. Any thoughts from you, Dan, on that before we move on?
I think you said it well. It shall be lit.
Okay.
The question is, yesterday, no one really carried. I shouldn't say no one but I think the right we got a lot of good clips out of some of the Dem comments from Monica McIver and a couple others that were a little over the top on the right that went around. But it didn't seem to get any national attention, that hearing with the ICE and CBP director. I do wonder, do people take the AG hearing? Does Fox take it? Does it rise? Does MS Now or whatever it's called take it? I'll be interested because I think in some ways, obviously, there's a lot of interest in this, but I don't know that it like whether the networks will take it, and therefore, does it actually break through beyond the the base.
Well, and we talked yesterday about that hearing and, how Democrats would react and agree with you. Some of them were not, those were not shining moments that that you would want out there. But I think, don't forget, Netanyahu's going to be there, shortly thereafter. And that'll have, wall-to-wall coverage of him pulling up to the White House. And
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the circuit board can only handle so much. But
And will he open it up? That goes to our next item on the day book here. Meeting with BB in the Oval Office. Closed press right now, but he could change that on a dime, right?
They just met Mar-a-Lago and over the holidays. Yep.
Yeah, and obviously this comes as the president is considering the strike on Iran. There was this Axios story from last night where they interviewed him, and he said he's sending a second aircraft carrier strike group to the region. So certainly building up, and Bibi obviously wants him to do this. I mean, concerns about Iran's nuclear program, that's a ongoing thing. And then he has, Arab leaders in his ear as well, sort of urging caution. So we'll see. 4:00, the president, participates in Champion of Coal event at the White House at 5:30. He's meeting with Mark Barnett, the special envoy to the United Kingdom. And separately, guys, just very quickly, there is this very cryptic sort of announcement that the El Paso airport is going to be closed for the next 10 days. And that there's I don't want to call it a no-fly zone, but
It is a no-fly zone.
Is it a no-fly zone? Like
Yes,
you can
close
shut
the
down
airport.
if you fly over it. What is this?
So
I mean,
here's what I'll tell you. You don't do that for that long without something significant. So there's a couple, there's an army base just to the west. There's some nuclear stuff. There's a lot of government stuff in there. But it wouldn't, what I can't get is you still wouldn't, if you were using it, you wouldn't necessarily clear the airspace for 10 days. This is something different. You wouldn't, it's just protocol wouldn't, I mean, you'd close it while you were operating. So if you needed to use those runways, you would close it from this time to this time. You might put out a heads up or something like this, but to close it for 10 days straight up is very concerning in terms of the security threat that may or may not exist.
I wonder.
Or aliens?
Yeah, we were texting
I said
before
cartels
here.
or aliens?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder, given the threat to go into Mexico to hit drug cartels, my first thought was that's a pretty reasonable place to think of staging.
I don't think it's a staging. I don't think it's a staging. It's a security. I mean, they're keeping air traffic out so that you can't have civilian response targets.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, like I said, the difference is you can close airspace pretty quick. And so if you needed to stage, they're never going to stage at a civilian airport.
No, but in the area, I mean, just like when we were in Puerto Rico. Yep.
You don't want that up. You don't want assets in the air. And also by closing it for 10 days, you give yourself a pretty big window for strike.
Yep.
Really,
and not just when you want it, but you don't. If there was any intel on the other side, you don't want them. They can't say, okay, it's going to be Tuesday or Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, now somebody knows something is coming, and everybody's radar is just up. Okay, let's do a quick word from our sponsors. I'll actually start with this. Last night, I was wishing I had my CB distillery goodies. I think I told you guys it was a long road trip with my toddler, and she and I shared bed last night. And the girl just kicks and calls out in the middle of the night. And oh my gosh, she didn't want any covers, so I couldn't use covers. And I'm just telling you, she's a diva. And I was like, okay, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I wish I had a CBD gummy right now to help me sleep, because my goodness, I cannot sleep when my toddler's in my bed right now. You guys should all check it out. They've got things for mood. They've got things to help you sleep. They have the balm we talked about earlier this week for sore muscles. And you can all go and look and shop at cbdistillery.com. Use my code HUDDLE for 25% off. That's cbdistillery.com HUDDLE. Again, want to sleep better? If you're sharing a bed with your toddler, I highly recommend it, because last night I didn't have it and I regretted it. So there you go.
For both.
There you go. Who's taking Cozy Earth?
I'm doing Cozy Earth. And speaking of a long week, yours truly had a little surgery Monday after the show. And what did I do yesterday? I spent most of yesterday in my Cozy Earth pajamas, lying around the house, recovering, and Had the Cozy Earth bubble blanket to keep me warm for most of the day. Kids had a few questions about why I was home in pajamas all day, but they were great. If you don't have them, you definitely want to get them. We always talk about the blanket. We talk about the candles. They're all wonderful. We just can't say enough good things about Cozy Earth. We know that many of you feel the same way. People have been going out and buying various Cozy Earth products, and you won't regret it. And we've talked about Valentine's Day coming up. Maybe St. Patrick's Day, you have a little too much fun. The next day, you want to just sit in your Cozy Earth pajamas and just chill out. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use our code Huddle for up to 20% off. You will not regret it.
There you go. Thanks to Cozy Earth and CB Distillery. Okay, let's jump back into economy. So the administration was saying a lot last year toward the end of the year that 2026 is going to be the point in time when people are going to start feeling an economic boom. Is today's sort of jobs number, is this like a hint that we're moving in that direction?
Yeah, it's not great, but it's not bad. I mean, it's a better headline than, they could have had, or it could have been worse, I could say. But I think part of the problem is, and you're seeing more and more stories about this, there's a question of how much Wall Street and kind of corporate bottom lines are benefiting versus how much workers are benefiting. And that seems to be a little bit of the rub. And that was Biden's frustration too, because the market kept going up under Biden. They kept hitting new highs. Corporations were announcing, very healthy profit margins, but workers weren't feeling it. And obviously inflation hit the working class a lot more than the upper class. And so I think part of the problem is it is a split screen as a rule right now. And that is, I'm empathetic to the Trump administration because it's the same thing Democrats went through.
Look, I've been very clear about this. I mean, everything, they put all the chips on the big, beautiful bill in the hopes that it sort of came out of the oven at the right time. And I feel very, like, as someone who believes that the state of the economy will predict the outcome of the election, I feel very good about this. I don't think it's going to be one jobs report number or another. The corporate folks are talking very positively about Q2, Q3, about investment and all this stuff. Some of this stuff just takes time. But I will go back to something that I've been consistent about forever in terms of, like, it's a gut feeling. What does that gut feeling manifest itself like? Well, if you're an employer, it's not just about your wages, right? There's a lot of people who worry about their job. You can have a job, you can have a good job, but if you're worried that you're going to get laid off, that's very different. So if the bosses are starting to talk, we're having a good quarter, you feel much better about the stability of your job, of your company. Are we moving? Are we not moving? Can I stay here? Can I make an investment? There's a lot that goes into that gut feeling. And I believe that the more that companies are talking this up, that it's not necessarily just everything about your bottom line. Yes, that has a lot to do with it, but you can have a good month and a bad month. If you feel though that, like, I got a lot of people that are buddies of mine that work on commission, right? They sell high-end things and they're like, I feel good. People are buying again. Like, so to them, it's not 1 month or two. It's, do they feel that other people are feeling good? Do they feel like other people have disposable income? So like I said, the signs that I see out there from people who are commission-based, who are investment-based, all point to a very robust second and third quarter. And for those reasons, I think the White House should feel pretty good.
Somebody just wrote this in the chat. Question, I'll throw it to you guys. Does a good jobs number prevent, or will it prevent the Fed from doing another rate cut? How does that impact things?
CNBC was just, I kind of am going back and forth here, trying to listen to this conversation. Yeah, it makes it less likely that they're going to, because you cut interest rates to stimulate the economy. And if the economy is humming along, again, it's not great, it's not bad. You would not cut rate. The Fed wouldn't say, let's cut it to juice it to 11. If it's humming at 6 or 7, they're going to be content, because we keep saying this, inflation is not where they want it to be. It's not super high still, but it's not at that 2% target. And so I think what you're going to see is a wait and see approach. And for Trump, he wants it juiced. He wants the pedal to the metal to have the greatest economy that they can get. But that's just not the Fed's. The Fed's job is to balance inflation and employment.
Well, keep in mind, too, what does Trump want? What Dan said at the end, he wants the economy juiced. He believes one mechanism for doing that. So if it starts to happen on its own, right, it's just, if it's not happening as quick as he wants, he's going to say the Fed should do this and this person should do that. But if it starts to do it on its own, or if everything policy-wise kicks in, he's fine. He's not going to keep cutting rates if things are supercharged.
Let's just to sort of pull back a little bit and bring it back here to Washington, what happened last night. So Democrats are gearing up to create fresh HE double hockey sticks for Republicans on the affordability issue. And this, again, is about tariffs. In this vote last night, they're going to put Republicans on record over and over again on the tariff issue. Because the Speaker and the White House lost this floor vote, we are now in for several months of Democrats making them choose. Either they support Trump's tariffs, which are often, very unpopular with some independent voters, when you have people who have these concerns about affordability issues, or they can vote against him, which is a rebuke of the president, which would anger him, and they don't want to do that either. So it's a tough position here. Now, just a note on this, they wouldn't pass these votes that Democrats are going to be putting up over the next few weeks. They're not going to pass, obviously. But again, this is just about messaging.
What do you mean they're not going to pass?
I'm sorry, they're not going to be enacted into law. They're
Not likely, but
enacted into law.
not likely,
I mean,
yeah.
like the president's going to veto them.
Question is whether they're going to get near veto proof. But yeah.
Yeah, no.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. They're not going to go to they're not going to name a conference and break. I mean, it's one thing to allow them to happen, but the leaders get to appoint the conferees or do this. So that's not going to happen.
So Sean, what does the White House do now on this? Like, do they try to whip every vote? At some point, do they say to members like, okay,
but time out. Like, let's say, like, they lost 3 members. Okay. Tom Massey. They're never they're not going to have a conversation with Tom Massey, and Tom Massey doesn't really care what they have to say. So that's a goner. Okay. Full stop. Never going to happen. The president's very clear. He's been he's primaried him. He's supporting his primary opponent. Tom Massey's gone. Okay. So there's one.
100%.
The 2 other people they lost on this, or Don Bacon, he is not a fan of the president. He's retiring in Nebraska too. So again, not much you can do on that. Mm-hmm. And then Kevin Kiley from California, I mean, equally gone. The guy's not going to get reelected.
Thanks to redistricting, right?
Thanks to redistricting.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pissed about how it went down.
For sure.
So this is not like a policy thing. Like, I'm mad at you, I'm going to vote against you. They don't care.
But do you think only 3 would vote? So there's going to be a bill this afternoon on Canada.
That's the question. Because now,
no. But I'm saying, what I'm getting at is that this big picture idea that at some point they're going to say to the president, like, look, we're going to lose. How much do you care messaging wise? Like, we had this happen with the Epstein, where it was like, once we knew it was going to lose, do you just say, look, all right, let's go. We're not going to go anywhere with these votes. So how much do you really care? But I don't think that it's like some defection where it's like the president's losing support among the rank and file.
Yeah, but Sean, how many House Republicans do you think are going to vote against the Canada tariff bill that's going to come up here, I think, this afternoon?
The first example of this is going to happen this afternoon, as Dan
over under 30.
Oh, under 30.
I'm with Sean. I think under 30, but well over 3. And that's the thing. Like, now that these votes are actually happening, like, you're going to just see a bunch more Republicans. I don't know. How many do you think, Dan? What's your number?
I don't know. I think it's going to be more than you guys seemed. I just think all of these members of Congress that are from competitive districts know how unpopular this thing is. So you are now going to go on the record. Are you going to get up in a debate and say, I'm all for tariffs? Nope.
Sure.
Oh, great. Clip it. Put it out there, everybody. You're going
but you're not going to get up there and say, I'm for tariffs. You're going to get up there and say, I'm up for holding other countries so that our service providers, because in every district, there is some company that's getting screwed by tariffs. And so to stand up and say, you know what, those 500 employees at XYZ company down the road, right now, they can't export to India. Right now, what Donald Trump is doing is standing up to create a level playing field so we can export more, create more jobs here.
And the Democrats are going to say the 30,000 jobs here that are relying on exporting, that are hemorrhaging, that are begging us to stop this.
Okay, well, we are still on topic 1, so we got to move on. But just very quickly, short answer, what's the number? I'm going to say 10 Republicans today.
15.
15? Sean?
I actually had 12.
Okay. Okay. 10, 12, 15, writing down. You guys can discuss this tomorrow when I'm not on the show. Okay, a related topic. The president says...
Rachel was wrong.
That's why she's not on the show.
She's not here.
No, the president announced yesterday Republicans are not doing another reconciliation bill.
Shocker.
I was going to say, we've been talking about this on the show. The numbers are just not in their favor. Trying to do this again is like a very heavy / impossible lift. But what does this mean for the rest of the year, Sean, for Republicans? I mean, they're not going to, try to pass this big bill, but like, what are they going to do?
Rachel, do you know how many post offices need to be named? I mean, look, I've said this for a while. There's a lot of people who will ask me, what's the agenda? And I'm like, there is. I mean, like they're going to fund the government. That's the answer.
Okay, that'll be done though. Well, actually, it won't because the DHS deal probably won't come together, in my opinion. But
Whoa, hold on, that's last year's funding. They haven't even started this year. They haven't passed a budget. Is due the second week of February, which I believe we're in.
They're not going to pass a budget, Sean. Are they?
No, they have to do one, but they're not going to pass it. I mean, they'll deem it. But the thing is, the reality, they're not going to get anything done this year. And there was the reconciliation bill. There were two problems fundamentally. One, consensus on whether to do it, and then two, what to put in it. So it was never going to happen.
Other than that,
it's great.
And let's remind people the whole thing with the healthcare premium subsidies. They never came to a resolution on that. I think people stopped following that kind of last week at one point. Even one Senate Republican who was really pushing for a deal was like, "We're not going to do it."
I will say this: I would not be surprised if in the next couple of months you see an effort on the Republican side to create Trump accounts, health accounts, where an amount that was being put into subsidies is kind of like the Trump savings account for kids. An amount is deposited in every American's Trump's healthcare savings account that they can use to pay for, insurance premiums, out-of-pocket costs, etc. So just put that one on
without
your radar.
Congress, just put the money in people's accounts.
Well, and of course,
I think they would want Congress to pass it. Yes.
I mean, all you're doing is saying rather than us sending it to the insurance company, we're sending it to you to send it to the insurance company. I mean, I have a question then. So at the State of the Union, right, this is the big chance to kind of try to drive up, the raise the curtain on your thematics for the midterms. Sean, is he going to just basically try to say, I hear all the things I've done and we deserve, re-election? Like, is it going to be a pat us on the back versus a forward looking? Because I seriously now wonder, like to Rachel's point, what are you doing the rest of the year?
Like I said, I honestly, well, so look, there's two things to this. Number one is the actual agenda. And I believe 80% of it is going to, there's a list of things that have to get done. There's a farm bill. I think there's a highway. There's a permitting reform bill. There's some very nuanced things that are very important, by the way, to many industries. So It's not like it's nothing. It's just not as sexy as some big tax bills, et cetera. So I think they'll be focusing on those. You will do some housekeeping stuff and then fund the government. But as I've said all along, the State of the Union is at least a third, if not half, talking point. I'm calling on Congress to reform the housing program so that young Americans can get a house with a TV and the internet at high-speed gigs.
It's tough though, because Republicans control the Hill. And so if he's saying, pass the credit card swipe cap, please. Right. Makes him look good to a lot of people, but then they look like bad guys, his own party.
But that's what everyone does. Again, I'm just saying the State of the Union is not, to me, that's talking point versus substance. And there's a little of everything there. Okay. So that'll come and go. But I do think that the reality is that the agenda is literally like pass what we need to pass and get out. And then I wouldn't be surprised if there's an effort on the healthcare front. I think that's still early, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Let's move on to our third topic with the quote seditious six. So, Sean, I get the concern by Republicans that video that they created could sow this sort of doubt, perhaps, or internal conflict with troops. Is it legal? Is it not? What do I do? That sort of thing. And that was the big criticism of that video. But do you think the DOJ went too far in trying to indict these guys?
I think there's a big difference between the five. So Alyssa Slotkin has never served in the military, and she's a member of Congress. She has a right to say what she will.
CIA, yeah.
Right. As I said, she never served in the military. My point is she's not subject to any kind of UCMJ restrictions. She's a member of Congress, has the speech and debate clause. So I think while I think what she said was highly objectionable, she has the right to say it, especially as a member of Congress under the guise of the speech and debate clause. It was highly inflammatory, highly misleading, highly undermining of morale in the military and questioning the chain of command. But does she have the right to say stupid things? Yes, she's an American. The other 4 that served, again, are not subject to UCMJ because they are not retired military members, right? So Mark Kelly is the only one that carries a CAC card, is a retiree. And because when you retire from the military, the sort of the quid pro quo that you make is, hey, I'm still on the list. I'm still part of this. I'm still subject to UCMJ and certain things. So he's the only one that falls into a very separate category. The other 5 I thought was legally dubious because, like I said, there's nothing in the Constitution that prevents you from saying stupid, misleading, undermining things. That's all protected speech, especially if you're a member of Congress and have the speech and debate clause. I do think that Mark Kelly is in a separate category. And I will say, I actually think his legal strategy was rather brilliant because the course is that when the military, the normal course of action is the military makes a judgment against you, and then you have to follow the military appeals process. At the very end of that, then you can take that military judgment and go to a civilian court and say, I object to how the military court argued this under UCMJ. What Kelly seemed to do was jump the process and say, I think actually just knowing that, went to a court first and foremost and said, I want to argue this as a civilian, which again was cute. I may, depending on how this thing ultimately goes, I think he may have actually, deserved some kudos for how he circumvented the system. But he's the only one that I think is subjected to it because of his status.
Dan, Democrats are calling this sort of like, quote, authoritarian abuse of power. Do you think that's a little hyperbolic, or what? How do you?
Yeah, no, it's hyperbolic. I mean, I'll take the other side of Sean's argument that the stupidity and ridiculousness was the administration doing this. You've made them martyrs. There's nothing they did that was illegal. They said if you get an illegal order, you don't have to follow it. It's been in the code for 70 years.
Since
So
World War II.
I get it. It was a stunt, total political stunt. I said it at the time. It has been the biggest boon to all of their fundraising.
Yeah.
The administration made a molehill or a mountain out of a molehill. And I just think they humiliated them. Jeanine Pirro, once again, has lost in court. The administration's the one that tried to get him indicted, not Mark Kelly. So, I mean, this is where sometimes Trump tries to go to 11 to make a stunt out of something, and it totally backfired. Totally backfired on the administration.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago on Friday, we talked about winners and losers, and I talked about Kelly and how he has used this to sort of bring his political career to life. Whether or not you agree with him, the guy has always sort of been a vanilla politician. It was, issue in 2024, although perhaps there are other issues too with him in terms of VP candidate. But like, this is the first time I've seen him like he was on all the shows on this, like raising a bunch of money on this. Like, it was the first time I saw him sort of come to life as a politician when he's kind of been kind of boring, honestly. But anyway,
I just to back up, there's 2 issues here. I think Dan, I don't necessarily disagree with Dan on the political standpoint. Like you allowed them to raise, and the biggest thing that I think exists is that because so few people have served in this country, that when you go to explain UCMJ, it just goes over a lot of people's heads. And that includes 99% of people that are in the media. So I think that politically, it's a much harder thing to argue for around people who've never served, who don't understand the process. And so for those reasons, they actually did benefit politically because there's not an understanding of how the process works, of how the chain of command works. And so I think they found a very sympathetic media, as they normally do, but they also found a very sort of, naive media that doesn't understand the process. Almost no reporter that covers this has ever served in the military that I'm aware of. And therefore it's a very easy sell. So Dan is right politically. For a lot of these guys, it probably was a boon to them.
just a final thought on this, or I guess a final question. I mean, this is just the most recent setback that the admin has had when it comes to prosecuting people that, were critics or in some ways, whatever. James Comey, right? There's this example. There's a couple of others.
Letitia James.
Yeah.
I mean, just keep going on down the
I guess I
line.
just
The
wonder, like,
thing
at
that's
some point,
interesting-
did they say this isn't worth it because, now we're just getting bad headlines because we were
But,
not
but,
able
but you know what's interesting is that this is the first time, and I'm going through it in my head, maybe the tariffs will be depending on how this thing rules. The thing about the other ones on Letitia James and Comey in particular, they were process fouls. How they filed the case, who filed it. In the case of Lindsay Halligan, the court argued in Richmond that she wasn't the appropriate or duly appointed U.S. attorney for the Eastern District. It wasn't that they ruled on the merits. And I think that there's a distinction here, because this is the first time that, as I rack my brain real quick, it's on the merits. And that's a different animal, which is not to me, this is where, again, they need to think through the process and the merits, and to say, hey, if we're going to go do this, this is how we have to do it, because it doesn't come off looking like you actually had your act together.
I think the challenge for them is they are more, and we're going to get to the Save America Act here, more and more the Trump administration and the headlines are about things that the American people don't care about. The base cares about this, but it reminds me of Democrats when we were out there banging the drum on democracy, and at the time, our own voting rights bill coming off of the 2020, kind of shenanigans with the Trump world. And the country was like, it's inflation, the economy, and immigration, right? And Trump was speaking to what was in your top 3 or 4 issues in poll after poll after poll. The Trump administration more and more is talking about things that the American people are like, this is not my priority. And I just wonder how much longer they're going to keep doing stuff like this, where I think the average, voter and the average swing voter is just like, what are you doing?
Do you think that's right, Sean? They're talking to the base, but not people.
Look, I will say this. I think there's yes and no. This is a massively important issue to our base. Massively. I mean, I think, like, it's almost up there on a social level, like abortion or guns, that people passionately believe that we need to fix this for the good of the country. So it's a very personal, passionate issue for a lot of folks. That being said, the advantage that we have on this is that it's a winning issue across all dimensions: Black, white, Hispanic, Democrats, independents, like anywhere from mid 70s to high 90s, depending on who you are. So it's not like it's doing you any harm.
You're talking about Save the America Act,
yeah. Right? So and again, the distinction between Save America and Save Act. Save Act was just ID. Save America actually incorporates proof of citizenship. The one thing I will say, though, is, like a lot of issues in politics, remember, there's things that each of us agrees with, like that we say, I support that. The question, does it motivate you? Does it get you out to vote? Or will it be an outlier where you won't vote because of it, right? And I just don't know. But I do think that it's not costing us anything to do this. It's a 90-10, 80-20 issue. And to raise it and to put Democrats in a position where the one nice thing about this is that their argument, normally, if the argument is easy, it would, but for Chuck Schumer to get up there and talk about racism and Jim Crow, every other country, civilized country on earth, requires ID. Everyone in America understands the importance of ID, because whether you're getting a prescription, getting on a plane, who cares? You have to have ID. John Ossoff, the Democratic senator of Georgia, is requiring a government ID to get into his fundraiser, but not to vote.
Well,
so it's a good issue for us. I think that it puts Democrats in an odd solution, because they're saying stupid things about, like, racism and Jim Crow, which makes no sense.
Well, actually is that's a good pivot.
What part isn't true?
This segment, but like this, again, there's this flashback to 4 years ago. We were talking about it a little bit on the text chain, Lisa Murkowski bringing it up. 4 years ago, Republicans were united and pushing back against Democrats for getting rid of the filibuster to pass election-related legislation that they said was essential to defending democracy. I remember, it was Schumer, who got in trouble for saying, you know, there's like Jim Crow related state laws that are terrible. We need to like overturn them or basically supersede them. And he got criticism for that.
Yep.
But like, you know, just 4 years ago, the shoe was sort of on the other foot here, right, Dan?
Well, but here's the problem and it goes to what Sean just said, which is Democrats paid a price for not passing the voting rights bill in 22 and 23, because the number of people in our coalition who said, you know what, if you really cared, you would have fought for it, right? You would have blown the filibuster up. And we're going to sit out. And the number of blacks who said, hey, look, you know what? They're going to make it harder for me to vote. You didn't do anything about it. So screw you. So the problem is once you get your base this fired up and this teed up, you basically, if you don't go through with it, now you have a motivation problem. And the Republicans, just like Democrats did a few years ago, have a motivation problem. So to Sean's point, it's kind of like you're pregnant and you almost have to push through now and get this done. Because if not, you're saying to the base, we don't really care. At the end of the day,
that's 100% right. Our base right now, this is the one thing. I mean, like if you ask most Republicans, and it's mostly because it's like it's inexcusable why you wouldn't be for it, right? So I think every MAGA / even establishment Republican is like, if you can't do this, why are you even in the majority? So they are too. Well, anyway, I think Republicans.
Do you think they'll end the filibuster? Like, do you think they'll do it, Sean?
What's the? I know we know you want them to do it, Sean. But the question is, do you think they will?
No, they won't.
Yeah,
because they're so scared. The thing that pisses me off is, look, and I'll just be clear on this. I actually believe in the merits of the filibuster. Okay, I think most Republicans do, and that's the issue. But here's what I think where I come down on this, and what I've been urging Republicans. I get it. If Democrats said to me, if Chuck Schumer said, I promise as long as I'm in the Senate, I will keep the filibuster, I'd be okay with it. I think the second, I don't think it, I know it. The second that they're in charge, they will get rid of it. And so my point to Republicans is, why are you holding back on something you know the other side will do and we will get screwed? If you know this, why are you not taking it? I mean, it's going to happen. They are going to do it. So why don't we just get ahead of it and get something for it? Because we are going to be on the losing end. So my point to every Republican like Lisa Murkowski is open your eyes, wake up, smell the coffee, understand what's about to happen, and stop being politically ignorant.
Here's the question. What year does that happen? What year does the filibuster disappear?
No. How many seconds after the Democrats?
Well, they won't.
We don't know that the Democrats will take the Senate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
probably won't, but
I don't think they'll do it with Trump in the White House. I think the next time this would be a serious topic is if one party controls everything for the same reasons that you're saying, which is the party base is going to say whatever the 2 or 3 top issues are at that time. This is it. This is our chance. We got to undo the Trump legacy, or we got to protect the Trump legacy. Like, you know, whoever has complete control the next time
2029 at earliest, and that assumes quite a bit in terms of Democrats winning. Okay, let's move on to our last topic. So Dan, you may disagree, but I think we need to start discussing what does a DHS shutdown actually look like. We are now 2 days out, a little more than 2 days out, still no deal. And we are starting to hear from moderate Democrats who do not like shutdowns, who are basically throwing cold water on this notion of even a short-term extension. I know some of them are out there saying they do this, but they're going to need at least like 7, 8 Democrats to vote for this. So let's just, before we jump in, let's bring up what Polymarkets has to say about the chances of a shutdown starting on Valentine's Day. Okay, so here you go. When we looked at this last week, people said the chances of a shutdown were 68%, I think was the number. Now we're at 74%. Probably moving in the correct direction. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that's making me nervous as a Democrat is, and Sean has raised this point now for a couple of weeks, which is if you shut DHS down, you're not only is it FEMA, but also, you know, the airports, the TSA agents, everything is under the Department of Homeland Security. And I think there are some Democrats that are a little too loose with their language that are like, we'll just shut down DHS and not fund it, you know, and if we have to go a month or two, so be it. That would be crazy. If you have spring break for all the schools, all over the country, a lot of people tend to move around, whether it's going to visit grandma or, going to Disney World, and you have airports, with fewer and fewer TSA agents and lines getting longer. That is not smart. And I think some of the more, cooler heads like Gene Shaheen that are talking about an extension to try to continue this. But Democrats need to be careful that we do not get out of control and look indignant on this.
Sean, what do you think the percentage is?
Look, I actually think that's about where my head is at. And I'll tell you why. At the beginning of the week, you guys know, I for all the reasons we talked about, you've got the security conference next week. They don't want to be here.
Right.
It's hard to walk away. And also, like, again, it's the agencies. This isn't some obscure department where people don't feel it on a day-to-day, right? I mean, look, the Interior Department, yeah, it sucks about national parks. They'd probably find a way to open or some of them, or, like the way they did last time, to minimize the impact from people who are traveling. I mean, there's ways to do that. But DHS is Coast Guard, Secret Service, FEMA. Like it is literally like post 9/11, we put all these in a place to guard our homeland. TSA. I think the look is not going to be good. Hey, we're not in town, number one. Two, we're off doing fill in the blank. How many fundraisers are scheduled? How many trips are scheduled? Yeah. The problem I have right now is a timing issue, right? So it is Wednesday, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
I checked.
And so they need to get this done by Friday. Yeah. Bills have to originate in the House, funding bills. Now, can it happen? I think, look, Congress doesn't act until it's urgent. So I think it can happen, but at some point, someone's got to go. Like, I guess we've talked about this before. What's the duration?
Yeah.
If you're not going to be in town, you can't just do it for 24 hours or 48 hours. So is it 7 days? Is it 10 days? But someone's got to put a ball in play and to say, okay, 10-day extension, 2-week extension. But I've got Senator Bill Haggerty coming up on my show tonight. I'm going to ask him that. Like, what's the plan?
Yeah. Speaking of, there is this story up at Politico this morning talking about the impacts over the next couple of days, what we might actually see. It sounds like TSA screeners won't miss their first paycheck until March. Spring break is what? First week of April?
Varies. It varies for every school district.
Right. Okay. Of course it varies, but in terms of that is really where, stuff starts to hit the fan, right? You have these TSA air traffic controllers often, they're not getting paid, and sometimes they start to stay home. That has led to the end of shutdowns before. FEMA apparently still has billions of dollars in disaster money. So there might not be, I mean, you're right, Sean, like obviously nobody wants FEMA to be in a situation where they can't help people, Americans who are facing some sort of disaster, but it sounds like they still do have money. And then there's a suggestion that they could do a workaround for the Coast Guard. Can they?
I just think you're playing with fire with this.
No, I agree with you playing with fire. But my point is, if the shutdown happens, I think that it could go for a really long time.
Well, here's the thing, though, and this was the thing the Obama people did, which is that's the Democrats' message, right? There's a pot here, there's a pot there. What the administration likely will do is say, oh, no, there isn't a pot. Here's the string. Because you want people to kind of have an action forcing little bit of pain to be like, guys, come back to the table. Right. And so I think you will likely find that those pots of money, somehow there's a, clause in Section 47 that says you can't do this. And you'll see kind of lines getting longer, etc. I just think it's really playing with fire here. If the Democrats think they can shut down DHS for a month or two.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, let's take some questions here.
By the way, you mentioned the Munich conference, Sean. One thing that's interesting is Gavin Newsom's going to it, which I find kind of interesting that he's going to go show up with a bunch of Europeans to, kind of.
He's got to be everywhere. He has serious FOMO. Clearly,
yeah. He's literally like. You got to remember his clock is ticking. So that guy's like, I'll go anywhere and do anything.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so question here. There has been a lot of talk about Ted Cruz challenging the vice president in 2028, but aren't we all forgetting about the ever ambitious Nikki Haley? What's the likelihood she runs?
I mean, she was on, what was it, Fox yesterday,
I
trashing
saw
the
it in the background. I didn't hear it, but I saw her on TV.
Yeah, she trashed the economy, and I mean, she might. I don't think she would have a chance, but never say never.
Sean, what do you think?
Sean's going to say never.
No, I mean, again, it's not a question of whether she runs or not. I just don't. There's not like there's no path, none, zero, nada. There's not even like a small trickle or a stream, or I mean, there's nothing. I don't know.
She's got no inroads with MAGA.
Well, I mean, I think the only way that you can run is if you say there's an issue or two that are going to be macro issues that JD Vance is not on the right side of. And today, I just, in a Republican primary, where is your opening? Because she is a kind of Bush traditional classic Republican. So is it trade? Is it, becoming more active on the foreign stage again? Like, what is your rationale for why you should fire JD Vance in a Republican primary? That today, I just don't see it.
No, I mean, I don't even like, I get the Cruz angle, which is like, I'm going to draft. And if he gets out, like I'm going to do something, right? There's no case there. Zero.
Oh,
yeah, I don't. I mean, I totally agree with both of you here. It's just funny though, because like once upon a time, like I thought she would be the first female president, like really did. Now it's impossible to see the path.
So hold on a second, Katie. Is there a new tweet on the El Paso airspace here?
I missed that. Am I missing
in our text? Are they reopening it? Because
okay.
Oh my God!
Temporary closure of airspace
thing ever.
This has been lifted. There is no threat to commercial aviation. All flights will resume. What?
Sean?
What is this? What are the double
what?
head fakes? We're all trying to read tea leaves here. Clearly, we're not reading them right. But
I mean, what?
Maybe
what is
they
the
were. Maybe
administration
they thought it
doing?
sent too much of a signal that something was going to happen, which is not maybe something that they wanted telegraphed as much as it. I don't know.
I mean,
Well, look, as I said, you don't shut down air traffic for 10 days into one place for no reason, and then to lift it. So whatever was the threat or whatever they were planning on doing is done.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. Let's
thanks,
bring
Katie.
up another
Good
question.
job.
Let's
Or
do
whoever
another
that was
here.
on that
Okay.
team.
Can you imagine though if like you were like spent this morning on like Expedia going like, okay, how do I now get out of here? And I just rented 18 cars in a bus, and now it's like, okay, good to go again.
Unbelievable.
Okay, another question here. Is it strange that JD is quiet on the Epstein issue?
Yep. Yes, because
no, what is he gonna do?
Because JD Vance banged the drum in 21, 22, 23, and 24, and it's hilarious.
So did the president, but you don't want to be out of lockstep with the guy who doesn't want to talk about this.
But you know what? I give a hat tip to John Ossoff this weekend, who coined the term the Epstein class to talk about the Trump cabinet and kind of the Mar-a-Lago crowd. I think you're going to hear Democrats talking about this idea of being for the wealthy, of being for the powerful interest. And it's people like Elon Musk. It's all the tech and crypto people. JD is he's quiet. I mean, you're right. He has nothing good to say. So
I just don't see what would he gain?
Right. Also, what is he going to do? Just like, first of all, the guy's he was at the Olympics dinners in Armenia. I mean, like, so I don't know that he hasn't been
broken. Social media.
Listen, I'm traveling.
What would you put out?
Right now.
Like, I still don't understand. Like, what would you comment on? Like, I don't.
You would get on the right side of the public. You would call for releasing stuff. I mean, he doesn't want to because.
But you just put out 5 million documents. I don't understand. Again, like, it's not like.
If this were Joe Biden, he'd be out there saying unredact names.
Of course, but that's a different team.
I will say this. Shameless plug. My conversation with Alan Dershowitz yesterday.
Oh, I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to watch it today when
I was blown away because here's the thing. Dershowitz is the opposite of most people. He's like, I want everything disclosed. Yeah. And he walks through, like he literally said at one point, I want to be called as a witness because I will name names. They won't call me. And he famously basically parroted the Colonel Nathan Jessup quote where he said, they don't want the truth. And I'm telling you, when you listen to him and he explains things, Dan, we talk about redactions and stuff. And he was like, look, This is what they are legally required to do. This is what they're not. This is what they should be doing. Like, he actually, not just hyperbolically or rhetorically or pundit wise, but he walks through the legal process of what they should have said or can do and not do in terms of DOJ. I was fascinated.
That's awesome. I'm going to listen to that today when I'm in the car again for a long time. Just a note, guys, Jennifer Jacobs, who has been covering the White House for a really long time, she just tweeted that the decision to close El Paso airport for 10 days was triggered by Mexican cartel drones breaching U.S. airspace. The War Department took action to disable the drones, and so here we are. Okay, just a note.
Feels like there may be more to that story, but okay.
Oh, I'm sure there is, but
All
you
right.
know, just good to know. In the meantime, let's bring up another question. Oh,
Mexico, Iran. I'm just,
okay, a question for Sean. It's Professor Kenny.
Professor Kenny.
Oh, hello there, sir.
Can Republicans capitalize on Spanberger's tax and spend policies in Virginia and how she lied to the electorate?
Oh, Professor Kenny, you know how to sweet talk Sean, don't you?
So I will preach to the professor here, because his question says, can Republicans?
What did I say?
No, you read it.
No, you did it. You read. John's going to say will.
Here's what I would argue back to the good professor. Can they or should they? Should they? Yes. Can they? Republicans are seemingly incapable of doing anything right now. Redistricting in Virginia, winning a race, talking about key issues. Should they? 100%. I literally yesterday, we had an election here, a special election in a state Senate district where I live. And people were like, asked, do you realize there's a tax on dog walking, on mowers? There is a tax on Uber, on Amazon deliveries. They literally have a $2.7 billion surplus in Virginia. Money's not a problem for Abigail Spanberger when she walked in the door. And they literally said, let's have a little whiteboard session and think of everything that we could possibly tax in Virginia. It's insane. Everything that they possibly can tax. They're going after every profession, every single thing. The list is insane. And I hear from my fellow Republicans throughout the Commonwealth who are like, this is crazy. And I'm like, what are you doing about it? Nothing. So that gets to your question, Professor Kenny. I just, there is something just pathetic about most of the establishment folks in Virginia when it comes to what they should be doing, not can they be doing it. So I think it's a great question. I'm so saddened by the lack of, it's the same consultants. I said this to a bunch of people after the election. These people who screwed up lost all of the House of Delegates, the state Senate, and all 3 statewide races in Virginia in epic fashion, are now back trying to run the redistricting effort, to the opposition to redistricting in Virginia. It's like we just don't learn our lesson.
Let's take one more. Okay, Republican lady is asking about the Savannah Guthrie's mom, the disappearance case. Okay, so the political ramifications of that. Less focus on Minnesota right now. Silence of feminist left on gender-based violence. Crime against the elderly. Generally, Trump's role. A prayer, just in case, to hope that she is found alive. Of course, there's been a lot that we have not talked about on this case.
I don't think it's a political. I mean, just in my opinion, this is not a political story whatsoever. It has nothing. Based on what I understand, this is not a left on gender. I mean, this is someone's famous mother was abducted from their home in Arizona. But I don't. It's a sad story. It's a tragic story. It's a heartbreaking story. But to me, we haven't talked about it because there's not. To my knowledge, Sean, you may disagree. There's no political story here.
Well, I don't think you're right. But I also think that I don't know that she's entirely getting, but there are some undertones of, for all these people who have been very anti-federal agencies, and it's like, wow, look at the job of the FBI and these public servants. Like that tape that is out now that we're seeing, the video rather, of this individual came because the FBI intervened and the FBI was able to use the warrants and whatever. I mean, there are some political questions that we can ask. This driver that got pulled over yesterday and questioned for 4 hours, If this had been Minnesota, they would have called it, needlessly pulled over and questioned and,
These are very
again,
different.
I do think there are some political questions about the media when it's in pursuit of something are okay with certain things. When it's not in favor of their agenda, they're against them. I do think once this case is solved and we have a resolution of it, maybe we can go back and talk about how they approached their view of law enforcement in this instance.
I would just very, very respectfully disagree with that. I've never heard the Democrats talking about not wanting the FBI or things for real crime stuff ever.
Well, I mean, my point is yesterday you had members of the Democratic Party call federal agents Gestapo and said that they are secret police and doing all this bad stuff. But when they're doing something in pursuit of an agenda that's okay, they're good guys. When you don't like them, they're the Gestapo, the secret police, Hitler, and Nazis.
Sean, they were talking about ICE agents in Minneapolis, just as Republicans under the great Kash Patel have fired more FBI agents because they worked on cases they were instructed to work on that the president now didn't like. So you can't say you love the FBI, but you hate the FBI when anything touches the Trump or the Trump family. So this is where you just can't do that. No Democrat has slammed the FBI for working to try to find Savannah Guthrie's mom.
No. I didn't say that.
Oh.
But I said that there's a difference in how you approach federal agents when you like what they're doing versus what you don't.
Sure. And both parties are equally as guilty on that.
Okay, guys, we are at 9:30.
Tomorrow, Sean and I are going to wrestle on stage.
On air.
This might be the week to do it, Dan, depending on how you're feeling. I might actually have the hand up on this one.
No below the belt tomorrow, Sean. Okay.
Oh my gosh. We're going to end on that note. We already got we know Sean is having Haggerty tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to flag?
Anything else? Isn't that a big deal? The junior senator from Tennessee.
I'm sorry. Sean is having Haggerty on television on his show tonight. There you go.
There you go.
Okay, guys. They will see you back at 8:30, and I will see you back Friday. Thanks for joining.
Drive safe.